The moment of silence. Picture this, you just accomplished something incredible. Maybe you got that promotion you've been working toward for months. Maybe you finished a project that pushed you to your limits. Maybe you finally hit a personal goal that once seemed impossible. And yet, when someone asks you about it, you find yourself downplaying it. Oh, it was nothing really. I just got lucky. Anyone could have done it. Or worse, you don't mention it at all. You stay quiet, even though every cell in your body wants to celebrate. You feel a strange tightness in your chest when you think about sharing your success. That discomfort, that hesitation, that internal voice telling you to stay small, it's more common than you think. If you've ever felt uncomfortable celebrating yourself, you're not alone. And today, psychology has some answers that might change the way you see yourself forever. Because what you're about to discover isn't just about modesty or humility. It goes much deeper than that. The cultural conditioning. Let's start at the beginning. From the moment we're children, many of us receive mixed messages about success and self-celebration. Think back to your childhood. When you came home excited about winning a spelling bee or scoring a goal, what happened? Maybe your parents smiled and said, "Good job," but then quickly added, "Don't brag about it to your friends." Or perhaps you were told, "Pride comes before a fall." In schools, we learn to raise our hands quietly, to wait our turn, to not show off. Group projects teach us that everyone contributed equally, even when they didn't. The message becomes clear: your individual achievement matters less than not making others feel bad. This is what psychologists call cultural conditioning. Different cultures handle this differently, of course. Some Eastern cultures emphasize collective harmony over individual recognition. Western cultures often praise individual achievement but then shame people for being too confident or full of themselves. The result? We develop what researchers call a celebration conflict. Our authentic desire to feel proud clashes with our learned behavior to minimize ourselves. And this conflict doesn't just disappear when we become adults. It embeds itself deep in our psychology. But cultural conditioning is only part of the story. There's something even more personal happening beneath the surface. The fear beneath the surface. When psychologists study why people avoid self-celebration, they consistently find the same underlying fears. And these fears are surprisingly universal. The first fear is social rejection. Humans are wired for connection. Thousands of years ago, being rejected from the tribe meant death. That ancient wiring still exists in your brain today. When you consider celebrating yourself, your brain asks, what if they think I'm arrogant? What if they pull away from me? What if I lose their respect? The second fear is what psychologists call tall poppy syndrome. It's the idea that if you rise too high, you'll be cut down. You worry that success will make you a target. That people will scrutinize you more carefully, waiting for you to fail. So you stay low, stay safe, stay invisible. The third fear is imposter syndrome. Even when you achieve something real, a voice inside whispers, "You don't deserve this. You just got lucky." If you celebrate, everyone will realize you're a fraud. Studies show that up to 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. And here's the fourth fear that people rarely talk about, the fear of outgrowing others. When you celebrate your growth, you acknowledge that you're changing. And change can threaten relationships. You might worry, if I become successful, will I lose my friends? Will my family still relate to me? These fears are real, and they're powerful. But they're also based on stories we tell ourselves, stories that may not be true. The psychology of self-worth. Now let's dig deeper into what's really happening in your mind when you struggle to celebrate yourself. Psychologist Kristin Neff, who studies self-compassion, explains that many people have conditional self-worth. This means you only allow yourself to feel good when you meet certain standards. And even when you do meet them, you immediately raise the bar higher. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. You achieve something, but instead of stopping to appreciate it, you think, okay, but what's next? This wasn't that impressive. This pattern often starts with how we were praised as children. If you were only praised for achievements rather than for effort or character, you learn that your worth depends on external validation. And external validation is a trap, because it's never enough. There's also something called self-silencing, a concept developed by psychologist Dana Jack. It's when you suppress your authentic feelings and needs to maintain relationships and avoid conflict. When you achieve something, your authentic self wants to celebrate. But your self-silencing mechanism kicks in and says, don't draw attention. Don't risk making waves. Research shows that people who struggle with self-celebration often have what's called an external locus of control. They attribute their success to luck, timing, or other people, rather than acknowledging their own effort and ability. This isn't humility, it's a form of self-abandonment. Understanding these patterns is crucial. Because once you see them, you can start to change them. The cost of staying small. Let's talk about what happens when you consistently avoid celebrating yourself. Because there are real consequences that psychology has documented. First, your brain learns that your achievements don't matter. Neuroscience shows us that what we pay attention to, we reinforce. When you ignore or minimize your wins, you're literally training your brain to not register success. Over time, this makes it harder to feel motivated or to recognize progress. Second, you rob yourself of positive emotions. Psychologist Barbara Fredrickson's research on positive emotions shows that feelings like pride and joy don't just feel good, they expand your thinking, improve your problem solving, and build psychological resilience. When you skip celebrating, you lose these benefits. Third, you send unclear signals to others. If you don't acknowledge your own value, why would anyone else? In professional settings, people who can't celebrate their achievements often get overlooked for promotions, raises, and opportunities. Not because they're not talented, but because they've made themselves invisible. Fourth, and perhaps most importantly, you maintain a false story about who you are. Every time you say, it was nothing, when it was actually something significant, you reinforce the belief that you're not worthy of recognition. You cement the idea that you're less capable than you actually are. There's a painful irony here, the people who most need to celebrate themselves are often the ones who struggle with it the most. Meanwhile, people with inflated egos have no problem taking credit for things they didn't even do. So if staying small has all these costs, why is it so hard to change? Let's explore the deeper mechanics. The vulnerability of visibility. Here's something that might surprise you, celebrating yourself is an act of vulnerability. Researcher Brené Brown, who has spent decades studying vulnerability, explains that when you own your success, you're stepping into the arena. You're saying, I did this. I'm proud of this. And that visibility is terrifying because it means you can be seen, judged, and criticized. It's actually easier to stay hidden. When you downplay your achievements, you're protecting yourself. You're saying, don't look at me too closely. I'm just like everyone else. It feels safer. But Brown's research reveals something crucial: vulnerability is not weakness. It's actually the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and genuine connection. When you allow yourself to be seen, really seen, including your pride in what you've accomplished, you give others permission to do the same. There's also what psychologists call self-disclosure reciprocity. When you share authentically about your journey, including your wins, it encourages others to open up too. This creates deeper, more honest relationships, not shallower ones. Think about the people you most admire. Chances are, they're not the ones who pretend to be perfect or who act like success came easily. They're the ones who are honest about their struggles and genuine about their pride when they overcome obstacles. That authenticity is magnetic. The discomfort you feel when celebrating yourself isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign that you're growing, pushing past old limitations, and stepping into a more authentic version of yourself. So how do we bridge the gap between knowing this intellectually and actually feeling comfortable celebrating ourselves? Rewiring your relationship with success. Let's get practical. Here's what psychology tells us about building a healthier relationship with self-celebration. Start with private acknowledgement. Before you worry about public celebration, practice recognizing your own achievements privately. Keep a success journal where you write down 3 wins each week, no matter how small. This trains your brain to notice and value progress. Psychologist Ethan Kross recommends using distanced self-talk. Instead of saying, "I'm proud of myself," which might feel uncomfortable at first, try, "You did something worth celebrating." This small shift can make acknowledgement feel less threatening while you build comfort. Next, reframe what celebration means. It doesn't have to be loud or public. Celebration can be quiet gratitude for your own effort. It can be sharing your win with one trusted person. It can be simply pausing to let yourself feel good for 5 minutes before moving to the next task. Practice what psychologists call accurate self-assessment. This means neither inflating nor deflating your role in your success. Say to yourself, "I worked hard. I also had some help and some luck. And I deserve to acknowledge my part in this outcome." Connect with your why. When you remember why an achievement matters to you personally, not to anyone else, celebration becomes less about ego and more about honoring your values and growth. This makes it feel more authentic and less performative. Finally, surround yourself with people who celebrate you. Psychologist Shelley Gable's research on capitalization shows that how people respond to your good news dramatically affects your well-being. Find people who respond with genuine enthusiasm, not those who minimize or redirect attention. These strategies work. But there's one final piece of the puzzle that brings everything together. The permission you've been waiting for. Here's the truth that psychology wants you to understand: you don't need permission to celebrate yourself. But if you're waiting for it anyway, consider this your permission. Your achievements are valid, even if they're small. Even if someone else has achieved more. Even if you had help along the way. Even if you still have far to go. Progress is progress, and acknowledging it doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you honest. Researcher Sonia Lyubomirsky, who studies happiness, has found that people who regularly savor their positive experiences and achievements are significantly happier and more resilient than those who don't. Celebration isn't selfish, it's self-care. And here's something powerful: when you celebrate yourself, you model healthy self-worth for everyone around you. You show others, especially young people watching, that it's okay to be proud of who you're becoming. You give them permission to do the same. The discomfort you feel isn't a character flaw. It's evidence of a sensitive, conscientious mind that cares about others. Now it's time to extend that same care to yourself. Start small today. Think of one thing you did recently that took effort or courage. It doesn't have to be a major achievement. Maybe you had a difficult conversation. Maybe you kept a commitment to yourself. Maybe you tried something new despite being scared. Now say it out loud or write it down: "I did that, and I'm proud of it." Feel the discomfort if it comes. Don't fight it. But don't let it stop you either. Because on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you who knows their worth, who celebrates their growth, and who doesn't apologize for taking up space in this world. You've been working hard. You've been pushing through challenges. You've been growing in ways that deserve recognition. So here's your reminder: it's okay to celebrate yourself. In fact, it's more than okay. It's necessary. If you feel uncomfortable celebrating yourself, now you know why. It's not a flaw in your character. It's a combination of cultural conditioning, deep-rooted fears, learned patterns, and the vulnerability that comes with being seen. But understanding the why gives you the power to change the how. You can start rewiring these patterns, one small celebration at a time. Remember, humility and self-recognition aren't opposites. You can acknowledge your achievements while staying grounded. You can feel proud while remaining kind. You can celebrate yourself while still having room to grow. The world doesn't need you to stay small. It needs you at your full potential, confident in your worth, and willing to share your unique gifts. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments what's one achievement you're going to celebrate today, no matter how small. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who needs permission to celebrate themselves too. Next time, we'll explore another psychological pattern that holds people back: why smart people often feel the need to overthink everything. You won't want to miss it.